There were families with money. And then there were families like the Adebayos. They didn't just have money. They dripped with it. Every inch of their presence felt like polished gold, from their spotless white mansion to their imported security dogs. People said their driveway was paved with crushed Italian marble. Others claimed their water was filtered with pearls. But the strangest thing wasn't their wealth. It was their hair. Or lack of it. Every single member of the Adebayo family, father, mother, all 4 children, grandparents, and even the help, was completely bald. Not just shaved. Bald like mirrors. Their scalps were smooth, flawless, and unnaturally shiny. Even their eyebrows were missing. Eyelashes too. It was as though every single hair follicle had been erased by something beyond human understanding. Nobody knew why. Nobody dared ask. Their mansion sat like a crown on Oba Hill, the highest point in the village of Umu Agbara. You could see the entire town from up there, but no one from the town could see what happened inside. The white iron gates were always locked. The hedges stood taller than a man. And at night, the light stayed on in every room, even the basement windows. Some people said it was to keep something out. Others whispered that it was to keep something else in. When they first moved in, the Adebayos tried to blend in. Or at least, they pretended to. They smiled politely. Sent donations to churches. Even hosted a few charity events. But everything they did was controlled, carefully measured, as though the entire family was following an invisible script. They rarely spoke more than necessary. They never laughed. And they never removed their black gloves in public. All 4 children, Dara, Sua, Tanji, and Toby, were enrolled in the most expensive school in the region. They arrived in bulletproof SUVs, stepped out one by one like porcelain dolls, and walked the school halls in eerie silence. Never playing. Never joining clubs. Never speaking to anyone outside themselves. Their uniforms were always flawless. Their socks never had lint. And most haunting of all, their heads gleamed under the sunlight, like wet stones. Out of the 4 Adebayo children, it was Toby, the second son, who seemed different. He didn't walk as straight as the others. He often lingered when class ended. He stared too long at other people's hair. He sometimes blinked too much when the classroom lights flickered. Students avoided him, not because he was rude, but because something about him felt off. Like he wanted to say something, but couldn't. Like he was listening to voices that no one else could hear. One day, during break, a boy named Kin was resting under the mango tree when he noticed Toby watching him from behind the wall. "Why are you staring?" Kin asked. Toby hesitated, then whispered, "Does it hurt?" "Oh." Toby took a slow step forward. "When it grows. Your hair. Does it hurt?" Kin laughed. "What kind of question is that?" But Toby wasn't joking. His eyes were wide, desperate. "I just want to know what it feels like," he said. Then he turned and walked away. Every night in the Adebayo household, exactly at 9:13 p.m., all 8 members of the family gathered in the incense room. It was a circular room with no windows, no mirrors, and a floor made of black stone. At the center sat a marble bowl filled with a shimmering silver ointment. The father, Chief Olumide Adebayo, would stand first, place both hands over the bowl, and say the words, "Let not the roots awaken." Then one by one, each family member would scoop a portion of the ointment and rub it slowly, carefully, across their bare scalps, from forehead to nape. They moved in silence, their faces expressionless, eyes half closed like monks in prayer. Toby did it too. Every single night. Until the night he didn't. It was the 4th Tuesday of the new term. A cold night. The mansion buzzed with quiet energy as it always did. But in room 3C upstairs, Toby sat still, staring at his reflection in the blackened mirror. The jar of ointment sat untouched beside his bed. His heart thudded in his chest as he reached up and touched his head. Nothing. Just smooth skin. Still, something inside him whispered, "Don't do it tonight." For the first time in years, he went to bed without applying the ointment. He expected something to happen. A scream. A whisper. Maybe his scalp would catch fire. But nothing happened. Until the third night. He woke up scratching his forehead. A tiny itch. Nothing serious. Until he looked in the mirror. There, barely visible, just above his right eyebrow, was a single strand of hair. He gasped. Stepped back. Touched it. It was real. The first strand of hair was barely visible, but Toby saw it, and that was enough to scare him. He stared at his reflection in the cracked edge of the mirror behind his wardrobe. The strand glistened under the dull bedroom light. Soft. Rebellious. He touched it again. It tingled beneath his fingers, like something waking up after a long sleep. Part of him wanted to pluck it. Destroy the evidence. But another part, the louder part, wanted to keep it. So he pulled the hood of his sleeping robe over his head, slid the jar of ointment back into the drawer, and climbed into bed, heart racing. That night, Toby dreamed of the West Wing. No one in the family was allowed near that part of the mansion. It was sealed off, chained, bolted, and cursed, according to their grandfather. But in the dream, he stood in front of the forbidden door, barefoot, his hair swaying gently in an invisible wind. There was a girl inside. He couldn't see her face, only her shadow. She was combing her hair. Long, black, wild. Each stroke echoed like thunder. Then her voice came through the door, soft, haunting. "You've done it. You've let it grow." Toby stepped closer. "Who are you?" he asked. "The one they buried." He reached for the doorknob. "Let it grow, Toby. Let it remember." Then he woke up, sweating, gasping, and more afraid than he'd ever been. Breakfast the next morning was served in the East Dining Hall. As usual, the family sat in silence, except for the quiet clinking of spoons against porcelain. The grandmother watched everyone with her usual blank expression. Her bald head was wrapped in a thin lace scarf. But her eyes never blinked. Halfway through the meal, the father, Chief Olimide, turned slightly and spoke. "Toby, you look warm. Remove your hood." Toby froze. He was still wearing his robe hood, and he hadn't realized it until now. The mother's spoon stopped midair. The other children glanced at him, then back at their plates. No one moved. No one breathed. Toby tried to smile. "It's nothing, Papa. I just felt a little cold." "You're sweating," his father said calmly. Toby wiped his forehead. "I had a strange dream. That's all." His hand trembled. He could feel it, the tiny patch of hair just behind his right temple. It was bigger now. Maybe 10 or 15 strands. He hadn't dared count. Grandfather cleared his throat. "You will join me tonight after prayers?" Toby nodded. "Yes, Grandpa." He didn't sleep that night. At 11 p.m., the old man took him to the mirror room, the one room in the house where a single tall mirror still stood. It was covered in thick red cloth, embroidered with ancient symbols. Toby had never been inside before. The room was freezing. "Sit," the grandfather said. Toby obeyed. The old man lit a stick of incense, walked around him 3 times, and finally pulled the red cloth off the mirror. The mirror was cracked at the edges. Dusty. But the reflection was clear enough. "Do you see anything?" the old man asked. Toby swallowed. "I see myself." "Is there something you need to confess?" Toby said nothing. The old man stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. You're too young to understand the curse. But you'll learn, one way or another. He pulled the cloth back over the mirror and motioned toward the door. Go. And rub tonight. Not one drop less. Toby nodded and left, but the ointment stayed untouched. The next morning, the patch had grown. Now, a small cluster of short curls peeked out from beneath his hood. Black. Healthy. Defiant. He couldn't stop staring at it. In class, he avoided everyone, even his siblings. He no longer joined them during breaks. He ate behind the chapel, alone, watching the other students laugh and gossip and run. Then it happened again. The girl from his dreams appeared, only this time, she was awake. It was raining during lunch. Most students stayed indoors, but Toby wandered into the empty chapel for silence. That's where he saw her. A girl in a white dress, standing at the altar, brushing her long, black hair. He froze. The girl didn't turn. Didn't flinch. She just kept brushing. Who are you? He asked. She smiled into the air. You saw me in the dream. I've been waiting. He stepped forward. What's happening to me? Your hair remembers. He blinked. Remembers what? What they made it forget. She finally turned. But where her eyes should have been, there was only darkness. Toby screamed and stumbled backward, and in that instant, she was gone. That night, the parents came into his room. No knock. No warning. His mother stepped in first. Calm. Cold. Barefoot. His father followed, holding the jar of ointment like a sacred relic. Remove your hood, the father said. Toby clutched his pillow. No. You know the rule, his mother whispered. You know what happens when the ritual is broken. I just wanted to know what it feels like, Toby's voice cracked. What it's like to be normal. The father looked at him with pity. You don't understand, son. It's not about being normal. It's about being safe. Then his mother grabbed him, firm but quiet. They dragged him to the bathroom mirror. And when the light hit his scalp, they both gasped. A full patch of black curls now sat on the right side of his head, vibrant and soft. His mother began to cry. His father whispered, You've awakened it. What is it? Toby shouted. Tell me the truth. But they didn't answer. Instead, they took him downstairs, not to the incense room. Not to the mirror room. But to the basement. A place none of the children had ever entered. The stairs to the basement were colder than Toby expected. With each step, the light behind him dimmed, swallowed by the shadows beneath the mansion. His father led the way, silent. His mother walked behind him, as if to ensure he didn't run. They passed through 3 locked doors, each marked with a faint white symbol. The air smelled of rusted metal and something else, like burnt honey. Toby's heart thundered. He had never been here. None of the children had. The basement wasn't just forbidden, it was practically a myth. A place whispered about but never confirmed. Until now. At the bottom of the final stairwell stood a large bronze door. No handle. No keyhole. Just a flat circle at its center, like a sun carved into the metal. The father pressed his bare palm against the circle. A warm glow pulsed beneath his skin. Click. The door slid open, without a sound. A wave of cold air spilled out. Inside was not what Toby expected. No chains. No cages. No dungeons. Just memories. The room was enormous. Walls lined with mirrors, each one draped in red cloth. Candles burned in a perfect circle on the floor, their flames impossibly still. At the center stood a marble platform, and on it an old comb. An ordinary, wooden comb. Toby stepped closer. The comb looked familiar. The same kind the girl from his dreams had used. His mother's voice broke the silence. You were never meant to remember. He turned to her. Remember what? She didn't answer. His father stepped forward. There was once another child. Before you. Toby froze. What? The candles flickered, every flame leaning inward. Her name was Adana. Your older sister. She was the first to stop using the ointment, the mother continued. We thought it was rebellion. We didn't understand it was something else. Toby swallowed hard. What happened to her? The grandfather's voice echoed behind them. She was the first seed. Toby turned to see the old man standing in the shadows. She let her hair grow, he said. And it remembered who we used to be. The mother trembled. We come from a bloodline that once worshipped a river deity. Our ancestors gave her as offering. Hair was power, memory, life. But when the rituals were broken, the gift became a curse. The grandfather pointed at the comb. Toby stepped back. She didn't die, his mother whispered, tears in her eyes. She changed. Toby stared at the comb. His hand moved on its own. He picked it up. Toby held the old comb in his trembling hand, his chest heaving with confusion and fear. So many thoughts raced through his head. Without thinking, he bolted from the room, nearly slipping on the polished floor as he dashed down the hallway. His bare feet thudded against the ground as he burst out of the mansion's high gates and ran blindly toward the heart of the village. By the time he reached the town square, he was screaming. They lied to us. My family is cursed. They made a covenant with something from the water. Startled villagers gathered quickly, some clutching wrappers to their chests, others peeking from behind market stalls. They stared at the boy with wild eyes and a strange patch of hair sprouting from his scalp, a rare and shocking sight for anyone who knew the Adebayo family. Within minutes, the entire village was buzzing. The elders called an emergency meeting, and the Adebayo compound was surrounded. The truth, buried for decades, was now bubbling to the surface like a long-forgotten corpse rising from a swamp. Then the truth spilled like poison oil. Toby's grandfather, Chief Adebayo the Great, had once been a poor fisherman. During a storm that nearly sank his boat, he made a desperate pact with a marine queen. In exchange for unimaginable wealth, power, and protection, he offered her one thing: his bloodline. No descendant of his would ever grow hair again. The bald heads were a mark of submission and ownership. But Toby had broken the oath. He had let his hair grow. He had combed it. He had disrespected the covenant. A cold wind swept through the village. The ground trembled slightly. Somewhere in the distance, someone said they saw the river boiling. Toby stood frozen in the center of the square, as every eye turned to him. The curse was broken.